just so that we can basically show the pigs some compassion and give them some water. It's basically to show them love and compassion just for that 2 minutes before they go into heaven. It literally just being there and seeing those trucks full of pigs, seeing their eyes, feeling their snouts, petting them, giving them water. That's something that you can't unsee, and it's like, you know that this happens. Whether you've seen it with your eyes or not, you know that this happens, and you know that even if you eat meat, you have it on your plate in front of you. You do, in the back of your head, know what has had to happen for that to get there.
Hey, what is up, guys? So we have another ex-vegan. If you haven't heard, that ex-vegan is Maddie Lymburner. Now, before I go on with this video, let me just give the usual ex-vegan response disclaimer, which is that this video is not meant to be a hate video. It's not meant to be a, oh my gosh, you're no longer vegan, you video. It is not meant to be that. It's just a response video to the things that I've seen Maddie Lymburner saying on social media in reference to her becoming an ex-vegan, and also some of the footage that I've seen from the past when she was a vegan. I don't view Maddie as a very dishonest person like other ex-vegans like John Venus. I don't view her like that. She seems like a very nice person and a genuine person, and might just be under the impression that she might need to consume animal products. So regardless of how nice she is, there is still some issues with things I've seen on social media from her in the past in relation to now. So let's get on with the video. So Maddie made a post on Instagram and the caption reads, "As you may have noticed, I've taken a step back from posting as much personal content online. After going through some major life shifts, I've realized that I needed to do this for myself. After creating hundreds of what I eat videos, things started to become repetitive and I lost my creative spark. I've also taken a new approach to my diet, which is no longer fully vegan, but predominantly plant-based. I understand that this might come as a shock, but I've only experienced positive things from including very small amounts of animal-based foods back into my diet. This is something that I needed to do for my health and overall well-being, something I will touch on more in the future. I still enjoy plant-based meals daily, have days where I eat 100% plant-based, and I will always advocate for eating more plant-based meals." I'm not going to read the rest of the caption because it's not really relevant to this video. So anyway, let's respond to the actual relevant parts of the caption. So first, she said that she lost her creative spark with cooking. Now, she didn't really directly imply that this is one of the reasons that she's no longer a vegan, but let me just say, Maddie, if you're listening and you're watching this, that, you know, there is 20,000 edible plants. So if you lost your creative spark with cooking, it's hard to believe that it was due to the limiting nature or the plant-based nature of a vegan diet, because there are 20,000 edible plants. There's plenty of room to be creative. So I have a hard time believing that this is a good reason to no longer be vegan. Now, you didn't explicitly say that this is one of the reasons you're not vegan, but, you know, just in case you do, just wanted to say that. So later in the caption, she said that she needed to consume animal products for good health, and that she's only experienced positive things from introducing animal products back into her diet. So number one, she said that she needed to start consuming animal products for her health. So of course, any reasonable person is going to ask the question, what do you get from animals that you can't get from plants? Did you get a blood test? Did you go to a plant-based nutritionist? Did you go to a plant-based dietitian or a vegan dietitian? What did you do to see that you could not get what you need from plants and that you can only get from animal products? Now, to be fair, she did say that she will be elaborating on this stuff in the future. So hopefully in the future, when she does elaborate, she can talk about the things that I just asked about. Now, the part of the caption that says, "I felt nothing but positive things from doing this," strikes me a little bit, and I get a little bit suspicious here, and I'll explain why. So this kind of language of like, I've only experienced positive things after putting animal products back into my diet, really reminds me of the past ex-vegans where they're like, oh, I just feel so much better. The ex-vegans that didn't get blood work done and that just had animal products and then magically started to feel good. And the reason that I think this is problematic, you know, like going off of your feelings as opposed to getting objective blood work done and seeing what you're missing from your vegan diet, the reason I think that's problematic is because your subjective feelings can really just be anything. If you are so concerned with how you're feeling rather than going to get actual objective blood work done, you can start to placebo yourself into feeling certain things. For example, Elise Parker ended up having one serving of salmon, and then all of her symptoms just magically went away overnight after one serving.
And just listening to my intuitive pull of like salmon was just like the thing that I was appealed to me. I tried salmon. I had 8 ounces of salmon one night, and this was just like a couple nights after getting back from Hawaii, so I was still like, I had all my symptoms going on. Wow, this is a long video. And I woke up the next morning with 0 congestion and 0 brain fog, 0 migraine, 0 lack of clarity. I felt the best that I had in probably like 3 years.
Tim Sheaf, after 3 months of not ejaculating, had eggs, I think once, or some sort of animal product, and then ejaculated.
The first night after I had that salmon, I had a wet dream. I hadn't ejaculated in months.
These kinds of people and ex-vegans that solely go off of their experience as opposed to really being objective and trying to see what it is they're not getting from their vegan diet, these kinds of people are a problem because they go off of their subjective feelings. And there's a lot of room for the placebo effect to occur here and make you think that you're getting some sort of nutrient or some sort of good feeling from an animal product, when really you're just enabling the placebo effect, and this is obviously a problem. So I could be wrong here, but the language he's using of like, oh, I've only felt positive things from doing this, really screams to me the whole like, oh, my feelings though, like I feel so good eating eggs, I'm gonna start eating eggs, as opposed to a more objective approach where you're like, let's go get blood work done and see exactly what I'm missing, and maybe go have a supplement or have a food that contains high amounts of that nutrient I found out that I was missing in my blood work. Like something like that, as opposed to like, oh, I just don't really feel good, let's have some chicken, oh my god, I feel so good. This kind of subjective stuff is very loose, and you really just are never going to know what exactly you're getting. You can really placebo yourself into just feeling a certain way. So as I said before, hopefully in the future she can elaborate on what it is that brought her here, if she went to get blood work done, etc. Okay, so let's look at a few comments that I've also seen on this specific Instagram post. Okay, so the first comment reads, I hope you are not incorporating red meat, chicken, turkey, or dairy. Those have been proven multiple times to be dangerous for health, and also the way animals are treated to obtain such products is just horrific. And then Maddie responds, nope, I'm not. They don't appeal to me in any sense. Still trying to eat as local, ethical, and responsible as possible. So if you don't know, Maddie actually has a history of going to vigils on her channel.
But actually being there and seeing the amount of trucks and the amount of pigs that are just starving, so scared, like so scared. They're screaming. They're on top of each other. They're going to the bathroom on top of each other. They're so thirsty, they're so hungry, and they're just about to be carted off this truck and thrown into a gas chamber to be cut up into pieces and shipped out on the other side as somebody's food. I was talking to these pigs and petting them and feeling their snouts and giving them water as if they were my own, as if they were my dog or my cat, you know what I mean? So it's just such, like, I used to eat meat. I used to pay for these animals to get slaughtered, and you know, and it's weird to me now that people can't make the connection between a living being and their food.
So as you guys can see, I mean, Maddie is a very compassionate person. She was touched by this vigil, probably more touched than I would be. Like, I would obviously be touched, but not in the same way that I think she was. Like, she was very touched. While I was watching this video, I started to get a little bit, like, sad, because it's like, wow, like, she was so upset. And it was great to see that she's upset in reference to the fact that it makes her want to be vegan and makes her want to remain vegan. But yeah, so the fact that she has this history of being so emotionally compelled by things like vigils, and then is now saying, oh, I'm trying to eat local as possible, as ethical as possible, really just strikes me a little bit weird. When you're somebody who goes to vigils and is a vegan activist, which she's also participated in the past, you know that local slaughter is not ethical. You know that they're still going to go to the slaughterhouse and have a knife slashed across their throat, have their life taken away from them against their will. They're still being exploited, they're still being commodified, etc. And when it comes to the whole viewing animals as commodities, Maddie has actually objected specifically to this kind of thing in the vigil video that I just showed you.
Because if this truck was full of dogs or was full of cats in these types of conditions, I think the circumstances would be a lot different than what they are now, and there would be a lot more people standing up. But for some reason, I guess it's just culture, we just have labels on these animals as food.
So yeah, I'm not really sure what it is that switched off in Maddie's brain that has made her no longer have these views, or at least act in alignment with them, you know, because she's against commodification of animals, but is now commodifying animals and buying local animal products. She could be in a very dire health situation where she just feels compelled to eat animals. Who really knows? Now, me personally, and I'm not even saying this to virtue signal, if I was experiencing health problems on a vegan diet, I would do whatever I possibly could to not support an animal holocaust. I would get blood work done. I would find a nutritionist. I would really try my best to not support a holocaust. Even if I couldn't figure out what the problem was and I knew I could still live and I could live and feel like at 70%, 80%, whatever, I would still be vegan just because I know that the way that I feel in the moment, you know, not feeling too good, is nowhere near what I'd be supporting for those animals and how they feel when they're in slaughterhouses and they're watching their friends get killed. So even if I had these health problems, I would still do whatever I possibly could to not support the animal holocaust. So this is the kind of mentality that I see in most vegans, so it's hard to really understand and see how she just flip-flopped. So this comment reads, so much love and respect for you, Maddie. I was just wondering what animal foods you have incorporated back into your diet. I am vegan but wondering if I should perhaps eat fish again. So Maddie responds, locally farmed eggs and fish. If you are feeling great eating 100% plant-based, then continue. I'm not trying to say eating a plant-based diet is inadequate. It just didn't work for me after 6+ years. So I like the fact that Maddie is at least telling her followers that a plant-based diet is adequate. Unlike John Venus, where he was like, oh, like you need to eat animal products to be healthy. It's necessary for good health.
I've always, like I just said, I've always believed that it's unnecessary for health. And now I've changed my position on that. I think it is necessary for most people, if not everyone, to consume animal products.
But as you can see in this comment, and this happens all the time, one of her fans was like, oh, maybe I should have fish again. And that's what people take away from these ex-vegan announcements from big influencers. So this is why I'm making this video, because those ex-vegan videos from people with large audiences are very influential to people who are fans of those ex-vegans. So Maddie, I would just ask you nicely, if you can provide evidence that not all people could consume a plant-based diet. Like, I'm glad that you said a plant-based diet is adequate for all people, but you are saying and implying that it's not good for you after 6+ years. So, we just really want to know what it is you think you're missing. And of course, she said in the future that she'll probably elaborate, so hopefully she does. All right, so the next comment reads, you helped me transition to being vegan, shaking my head. And then Maddie responds, and for that, I'm so happy for. I fully support a vegan diet and lifestyle. If it is working for you, please continue. Okay, so again, she is implying here that the vegan diet is adequate, which I like. But yeah, we would just like some evidence that not all people, including you, Maddie, cannot sustain themselves on a vegan diet. Now, of course, it isn't like a moral obligation for her to come out with this evidence, but I do think that it is a bit ethically irresponsible to come out with a video that prompts other people, by the thousands possibly, to start supporting an animal holocaust. Like, there was that one comment of that girl saying that, oh, I might start eating fish now. Now, that is just one case, but this happens all the time. So it would just be cool if she would come out with evidence supporting the claim that not all people can consume a vegan diet, because the last thing that I want, and of course the animals want, is people having another reason to support an animal holocaust. We love you, Maddie. You got to do what makes you feel 100%. So just going to go over the logical extension of this actual comment. Do whatever you need to do to feel 100%. I don't really agree with this. If we had to eat humans, cats, and dogs to feel 100%, would we? I necessarily don't think we should. So yeah, this whole idea, and you'll see this comment across her entire post of do whatever you need to do for your health, do whatever you need to do to feel 100%. This kind of comment is really weird to me, because when you think about the actual logical implications of what this means, it's like, oh, okay, so in a hypothetical world, if we had to kill humans to feel 100% or kill dogs and cats, we would just consider that moral? Like, I don't really agree with that. I would rather feel 90% or 80% or 70% than support an animal holocaust and feel 100%. And the reason for that is because the way that I'd feel at 70%, 80%, whatever, is nowhere near what the animals are feeling in factory farms when they're watching their friends get killed, when they're confined and exploited their entire life. So yeah, I don't really think that my 30%, 40% feeling better is worth the actual suffering of these animals in factory farms in general. So I actually found this old Q&A video from Maddie and her boyfriend at the time. Maybe they're still dating now, I'm not really sure. I think his name was Kyle, talking about veganism and if they had to consume animal products in a dire situation. Now, of course, if you're in a moment of starvation and you're going crazy and you start hallucinating, it's going to be hard to resist not eating something. It's almost like against your nature to not. Now, whether or not it's actually moral to kill and eat other sentient life in a moment of starvation is another question, and I'm not going to be addressing it in this video today. Maybe I'll address it in another video. So in this video, Maddie's boyfriend ended up saying something that actually pertains to Maddie's situation today.
There's certain people who literally can't digest plants.
And
how are they going to be healthy? How are they going to be part of the solution instead of, it makes no sense.
So judging from this video, I think it's obvious that Maddie in this video and her boyfriend in that video think that not all people can consume a plant-based diet and be healthy. And obviously she thinks that now because she's saying in these comments that I just read that, it's not really working for her. So it seems like she's had this belief for a while. So here's another part of the same video of her talking about how her boyfriend actually made her vegan.
they are now saying that Kyle is not an ethical vegan. And I just think that's so funny because Kyle was the one who turned me vegan. I don't think a lot of people realize that or know that. But he was the one who showed me slaughterhouse footage because he was so moved by it. And that's what turned me vegan. We've both gone to vigils. We've stood outside slaughterhouses. We've seen pigs in trucks going into slaughter. We do have that ethical connection. We do make that ethical connection.
So in this video, Maddie talks about how she's been to vigils, she's seen the slaughter footage, and that she's made the ethical connection to go vegan. Now, what exactly does the phrase ethical connection mean? Are we to now think that Maddie no longer has the ethical connection? In my view, somebody who has made the ethical connection would not think that it's moral to go and kill animals locally. Like, how can somebody say that they made the ethical connection for veganism while thinking that it's moral to actually slice an animal's throat so long as it is local? Again, it really sucks that we don't know the actual health issues that is compelling her to do these things. Maybe she doesn't actually think that it's moral. Maybe she acknowledges that it's not moral, but she's just so compelled by her current health problems that she has to go buy animal products locally for her health and pay for animals to be murdered for her health. Now, I want to address a specific comment that I know I'm going to get from vegans in this video and that I've always seen and seen so many times in other ex-vegan videos, and that comment is, oh, the person was never actually vegan to begin with. Now, although I think that this applies to certain ex-vegans, I don't think that it actually applies to all ex-vegans. Now, you guys know me, I'm always trying to be as logical as possible, so let me please at least try to explain myself. It is logically possible for somebody to have their actual position change. Somebody can think that one thing is wrong and then 10 years later think that it's not wrong. This is not logically impossible, right? It's not like they're having the positions at the same time, they're having them at different points in time. Of course, it's hard to imagine how a person can go to vigils and see all this footage and be against all this stuff and be an animal activist and then eventually start paying for these animals to be tortured and murdered and mutilated. I understand that. It's hard for me to really understand too. But the fact is that certain people can actually change their position, and this is just a fact. Now, there are some questions of like, okay, maybe they weren't deep down vegan. I mean, who really knows? It's hard to prove these things. But I do think that it's actually possible, and of course, it's not logically possible, for a person to go from being a vegan, ethically and morally in their head, to being a non-vegan, morally and ethically in their head. And like I said before, maybe her actual moral position on veganism hasn't actually changed. Maybe she's in such a bad health situation that she just is doing whatever she can to feel better, and that animal products are just doing that for her. Maybe that's the case. Maybe if we had time to actually talk to Maddie face to face, she would say, yeah, I don't think that what I'm doing is moral, but I'm really just doing whatever makes me feel good. And like she could admit to maybe being selfish, who really knows? I do have friends that have been vegan in the past and then now are not vegan, and when they came to me and told me they weren't vegan anymore, they were so straight up about it. They were like, yeah, I'm honestly just selfish. Like, I know what I'm doing isn't moral. I'm just a very selfish person. Now, before I end this video, I want to talk about this thing I came up with for ex-vegans. I kind of call it like the ex-vegan dishonesty test or whatever. And I actually have a full video going over this test and I'll link it right here, but I'm going to explain it right now anyway. So this is how it goes. Usually ex-vegans will end up saying like, yeah, I'm no longer vegan, but I still care about ethics. I still care about animals. I'm still going to buy, you know, humane, all this stuff, whatever. So let's give these ex-vegans the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, you can only get these nutrients from animals. We'll call them nutrients X, Y, and Z. You can only get X, Y, and Z from animals. If they are a person that cares about ethics, they should only be eating the minimum amount per day of these products. So let's input eggs as the food that contains nutrients X, Y, and Z. This ex-vegan, if they're trying to remain as ethical as possible, should be only having the bare minimum amount of eggs so that they're not supporting the animal holocaust as much as possible. So this is the kind of test that I give to ex-vegans, and you'll usually see that over time, they stop really caring. They start buying things like ice cream. They start supporting factory farms. And then you really just see that, okay, they actually don't really care whatsoever. So this is the kind of way that I look at other ex-vegans to see if they're actually true to their word when they say like, oh, I'm still going to be ethical. I'm still going to buy local. Please, like, I still care about animals. Like, please. So, you know, just be on the lookout for that and see if Maddie ends up switching over to all these other foods and, you know, starts really branching out. And then if she does unnecessarily branch out to other animal products, then we know at that point that she doesn't really care about the actual animals. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. I do hope that Maddie ends up, you know, coming out with that blood work or coming out with the actual story as to why she's no longer vegan and, you know, maybe tell us what nutrients she wasn't getting, etc. And if she does, maybe I'll make a video on it. Who knows? We'll see. That's the end of the video, guys. If you enjoy my content and want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.